and good morning, guys. Welcome to another fabulous episode of Exit Strategies Radio Show. Hey, I am your host, Corwin J. Millett, broker and owner of Exit Realty Low Country Group in beautiful North Charleston, South Carolina. If this is your first time listening to this show, you, sir, or ma'am, are in for a treat because our mission here is very simple, at least it's simple to me. That is to empower our community through financial literacy and real estate education. We're legacy building over here. That is what we do. So, guys, as I always tell you, when you're doing those things, making dreams come true for your family, we want you to put a hashtag on that thing that says legacy building, because that is what you are doing. So, look, we have been having an amazing run with our show. We've been engaging with people across the country, around the world. We've been bringing messages to you of hope, inspiration, encouragement, motivation. We've been bringing it to your doorstep, and we have been beating down your door with it. And today is no different. Guys, I'm very humbled to have with us an investor, an entrepreneur. I mean, he's the man, Omar Mohamed. Omar, how are you doing today?
Kerwin, I'm doing fantastic. Wow. Just very inspiring what you guys do out there. And I love everything you guys do. I'm super excited to be here with you today.
I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. So, Omar, if you will, the epitome of what many of our listeners endeavor. You are, I mean, started from here and now you're here on the way to there. So, I don't want to steal your thunder, my man, but tell our listeners about you, about this journey and this walk that you've been on.
Absolutely. Thank you. It's been an amazing journey. I wouldn't trade it for the word, but my name is Omar Mohamed. I just turned 30 in November. My story starts when I was back home, and that's Egypt. I was born and raised in Cairo, Egypt. Moved to the States with a dream, like as you said, legacy building, changing your life for your family and for everybody you know. That was my dream. At 20 years old, I was lucky and worked super hard to get the chance to come to the land of opportunity, which is the United States of America. And I couldn't be happier, Kerwin, for this news. The ticket came here, no money. I was in college, I didn't even finish, but I wasn't planning on staying in America. That wasn't the plan. It was a culture exchange program. I was supposed to be here for 3 months and then go back. However, when I saw the opportunity here, I took the biggest decision I've ever taken in my whole life. I remember I called my mom and I was like, hey, I know I told you the program is 90 days, but mom, this could change everything. We don't have to worry about nothing from now on if I would stay here. And as any mom with a 20-year-old kid, she cried. She was like, when am I going to see you again? I was like, hopefully soon. And I took that biggest decision and decided to stay in America. And it took me 7 years before I was able to reunite with my family. It took some time, like, my citizenship, everything, so I could fly back home. And the journey has been amazing and start working, learned a lot through the journey, met a lot of adversity, but it helped me shape me to who I am today. I look at it back and I was like, I didn't come that far to only, I need to make something out of this. And do my search, do my, realization, I came across real estate, which I know everybody's here for, but I ran into what everybody runs into. I work a full-time job. I don't know anything. I don't have money. I make good money as my W-2 job, but not to go purchase or put 20% down in the real estate. I was like, there has to be a way. So I started learning about real estate. I got into real estate, and I'm very excited to say in my very first year, I acquired 6 properties, 6 units with none of my money. Did it all creatively. So, so I was like,
So,
wow.
so Omar, I'm gonna bring you back just a smidgen
Yeah, absolutely.
because we got to go forward because
Sure.
the rest of the story is amazing. But you just touched on something. We're very big on this show about mindset, about the sacrifice requires, because success is not bought, it is earned. And in turn, people nowadays seem to believe that just because they want something, instant gratification, if you will, we got this drive-through mentality that all we got to do is just pull to the window or pull to the little mic, request success, drive around to the window, slide your debit card in, or give them
And it worked.
it comes out in the bag. I mean, literally, that's what we think. But you made a major sacrifice, man. 7 years that you didn't see your immediate family. And that's heart wrenching, but it's part of your journey, it's part of your story. So what drove you to real estate investing? I mean, you have a massive desire to do something greater, to give back and help your family as a whole. But what drove you to real estate?
Great question. And yes, to touch on the point, I always say life doesn't give you what you want, it gives you what you deserve. Right. So I start was like, okay, I want to become a real estate investor. That doesn't mean nothing. I want to become a millionaire. I want to be able to travel. You can want all what you want, but if you don't deserve it, you won't get it. So you have to deserve that. So I always look at it, I was like, what does the person that's financially free, what does he or she do on regular basis? I bet you they don't waste time. I bet you they take care of their body. I bet you they take care of their mind. They do this, they read. And then life gives you what you deserve, not what you want. And that's been a major lesson in my life. And you just touched on that. But what drove me into real estate really is financial freedom. After I got my citizenship and I was able to go back the very first time, on my way back on the airplane, it's a long flight, it's 12 hours. So you get a lot of self realization there. And I was like, am I really free? I came to America for freedom. I came to America to achieve a dream. But what does that dream is really? If somebody has to tell you where to be and when to be and your vacation time. And I was like, I cannot just stay here and not go back see my family. I only went for 2 weeks and work was like, Omar, and they were great. They were like, take your time you need with your family. You haven't seen them in 7 years, but soon enough, you got to be back. And I was like, so when can I go back? There's some people I haven't even seen yet. 2 weeks wasn't enough. And they were like, well, you have vacation. And I was like, that's not freedom. Just being American, yes, there is a lot of freedom compared to other countries, but the actual freedom is when you're able to pick your schedule, when you can decide what you want to do. So I was like, there has to be another way to make money while I'm not at the job, right? But again, at that time, I didn't have any reading or any self-development, just didn't even know about it. So I was like, what do I need to do? I start searching and I came across trading penny stocks. That was my very first thing. But real quick, I figured out that's not the way. So I was like, I didn't even trade any. I was like, that's not it. Then I came across wholesaling real estate. And that was my intro. So mainly getting into real estate was I wanted to build a machine or a business or investment where the money could come so I could go back. That was my necessities. I want to go back, see my little brother, my little sister, my mom. I want to be around my people, but I cannot stop the money coming because if the money stopped coming, it's a big issue. Who's going to pay the bills? Who's going to take care of the family? So I needed that. And real estate was the answer.
Wow. I love that journey, man. And I keep getting hung up because it really talks about the sacrifice, commitment that is necessary for success. So I run a brokerage and we have agents who are a part of our group here. And it's a constant conversation because oftentimes people just think it miraculously just happens. Just think that, hey, I'm doing this, and all of a sudden the money just starts flowing like you turned on the faucet and it's a constant boom, 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 like, but no, you really gotta you gotta go prime the pump before you open the faucet. And to make sure you got something in there, which means that you got to make sacrifices, you got to put in effort, you got to put in a lot of work. So you started with wholesaling. So guys, if you're listening and you're in the state of South Carolina, I'm a disclaimer here. Wholesale in the state of South Carolina requires a real estate license. All right. That is from the commissioner's mouth himself, or the chairman of the commission himself. It requires a license in the state of South Carolina. So if you are on the other side of a wholesale deal and the person that is doing a deal with you or you're doing a deal with isn't licensed, then please understand that that is a licensed practice in the state of South Carolina. But Omar, where you are, that may not be the case. But you got into wholesaling, and then from there, where did you go?
So I started with wholesaling. That was my intro. But then I figure out that's not what I want to do because it's another job. I look at wholesaling or flipping. It's not in real estate investing. It's a job. It's another job. It requires time. And I was like, no. But it was my intro. It taught me how to find deals. So I started getting really good at it. And again, I'm still working my full-time job, by the way. I haven't left that yet. And I don't suggest it to a lot of people who's starting. When they find something, you jump on it. There's so many good things I learned a lot from my full-time job. I'm an area sales executive. So I learned a lot from sales, managing people, and that helped me through a lot. Plus, banks love that. You see, they see a W-2 for a long time. They love it. So I was like, no, wholesaling is just not, I can't do that. It's a job. So I was like, I need investment. But I was finding these deals and I was selling them or reassigning them to cash buyers. So I started getting really close to these cash buyers. I was like, what do you guys do with these deals? They were like, we rent them. I was like, I like that. So you rent, you can travel. Money's still coming. I want to do that, but I don't have money. So I start getting into learning about real estate and investing with no to low money down. There's a lot of great books. And I believe Brandon Turner, who used to be on Bigger Pockets, he has a book that's called Investing with No to Low Money. And that book talks about how you can get into real estate with no money. It's not easy. Anybody listening, or I know sometimes people make it sound super easy. You could just, as you said, turn on the faucet, you get the deals. It's not like that, but it's possible. Because again, you don't want it to be easy anyway, because if it's easy, everybody would have done it. If it's easy, it's not rewarding, but it's very possible. It requires work. It requires you to do something most people are not willing to do, but then you'll have something they don't have. So that's what got me in real estate wholesaling. And then I needed to shift to owning these properties that I was finding in a great deal and turn away. Okay, I can assign for 5K, 8K, but that doesn't mean anything because it's a job. I need to do it again and I need to keep doing it. So that's what got me started.
So that is priceless because, real estate is always a long ball game. It always is. You touched on book you read and it really took me back. So a number of years before I got a real estate license, I'd spent time reading books. One book I read the title was along the vein of how to buy a house with no money down or something or whatever, something along the similar vein. Probably wasn't the same book. I don't believe it was, but this was 20 some odd years ago when I read this book, and it was centered upon how to leverage OPP, other people's money, which is financing, whether it be through traditional lending institutions, banks, or whether it be through private funding or what have you. And we have a connection in all areas to help our investors with that kind of stuff. But you leverage primarily, what I'm understanding, hearing primarily with the banks. Am I correct?
No, actually, people. So I leverage hard money lenders, which there's people out there that will lend you the money if you find a good deal. They'll give you the money to buy the deal. They'll give you the money to renovate. Then I'll go back to the bank and refinance. I would do a burst strategy. Then once the bank I refinance, they give me the money back. I'll go give it to the hard money lender. They got their money back and I got the property. And guess what? Sometimes I walk away with a check if I push enough value. So if I find a really good deal, let's say the deal is going to be 100K when it's done. Just to make it easy. Every deal in real estate is 100K when you give an example. But it's 100K when it's done. That's the ARV, the after repair value for people who are new. So if I know if I buy this house and fix it, the bank will come back and be like, hey, looking at the comps in the area, looking at what's sold in the area, let's say it's 2-bed, 1-bath, and they're selling for 100K. I know for this house, if I fix it up to the neighborhood houses, the same standards, I'll get 100K. So let's say I buy it for 20 and it needs 30 to fix. I'm holding 50K. The bank will give you 70. So the bank will give me 70K to walk away with. So that means I borrow 50. I fix the house. Now it's worth 100, right? The bank will give me 70. I can give the 50 back, walk away with 20K check and a house that I can rent that can cash flow.
And you still got the house, and now you
get the house, and you put no money down. So in the beginning, I was skeptical. I was like, it sounds too good to be true. But I start seeing it, reading more, doing research, and I just jumped right in. I did that. So that was one. I did creative finance, which is seller finance. I've done a couple of deals, seller finance, and I've done a 203K loan as well, if some of the listeners are familiar, which is a really good one. It's an FHA. They give you the money, buy money to fix it with a 3.5% down, very low entry. And that's how I got in.
So the 203K program, a 203 program is a rehab program under FHA, which, Omar, I know you know this, but for our listeners, that requires you to own or occupy. You got to move into that house. Yeah. But I don't mean you got to stay there forever. So it's a trick to this is to buy it, renovate it, move into it, stay for a time period while you identify your next property, and then turn that into a rental.
Or do it up to 4 unit. Actually, behind me, that's my 203K house. I still live in it. So I bought a duplex. I'm renting the other half, my tenant up there, thank you. They're paying the mortgage and I'm living for free. So that's the best way to do it, in my opinion, in multifamily. They will only do it up to 4 units. So you can take advantage of that. And for a 3.5% down, plus you can build equity too. Because if you get something like beat up a little bit, you buy it, you fix it, you force appreciation. Now it's worth more than what you owe on it. So you have equity and it's cash flowing and you're living for free. So for starters, I think it's a great opportunity to take advantage of, for sure.
I can agree. I always have this conversation with people and sometimes with myself. I had this thing to do all over again. What would I do differently? And one of the things that sometimes comes up in that is that strategy you just spoke about, which is you move in, you buy a multifamily, your first property, instead of you buying there's a lot of people, they want the dream, but they want the dream today. they believe that a dream deferred is a dream denied versus a dream deferred is a dream obtained. But with that, moving into a multifamily, duplex, tri, or quad, because you can do that with FHA and other government insured financing, it allows you the opportunity to leverage yourself up. Like you said, you get your tenants paying the mortgage, you get to live for free. So you get to save that money as you seek to identify your next property going forward. That is an amazing strategy. I love that. So you are a business owner. And most times when people are like you, Omar, they're serial entrepreneurs. Like we see a business in everything, right?
Do you want something more? More meaningful moments, opportunities, deeper relationships, and memorable experiences? Do you want to make a difference? If you said yes, a career in real estate could be the opportunity you're looking for. Guiding people through one of the most important decisions they ever made, the purchase or sale of their home, can be both rewarding and lucrative. Exit Realty has a revolutionary compensation model, training, and technology that provides you with the tools you need to start and build your successful real estate career. Call me today, Mimi Eubanks, your country realtor, at 843-730-3327. That's 843-730-3327. Or visit exitlowcountry.com/joinexit and make your exit today.
Always. You just start seeing the opportunities. It's amazing. I would like to say two businesses now as well. I have a construction company, which real estate taught me that. I was like, okay, so if I'm doing all these rehabs, excessive renovations, I need a reliable crew. And as everybody know, everybody has a story with a contractor. And when I was just starting, I couldn't afford a big mistake. So I was on top of these contractors, and I probably it was my fault. Like I probably made a lot of them just leave because I was that guy that was like, "Oh, what you doing here? What's that? What's this?" Again, I'm borrowing a lot of money. I could not mess up. There was just no chance. So I didn't want to be as involved, but I just have to be. And I was again, it's a lot of money that I can't afford to pay back. So I was very involved. But what that taught me is okay, I did 6 houses like that. I know exactly what goes into construction. And my very first one, people walked in and they were talking about like soffit and fascia, and I had no clue what that was. I thought it was in the bathroom, but not the roof. I have no clue. I have zero construction experience, don't know anything. But because I've done all that, I started learning. And then I saw the opportunity of having a good crew. So I kept that crew busy. And then my friends were like, hey, I need to renovate this bathroom. Could you help me? Could you send your crew that you have? And I was like, sure. And then I was like, you know what? There's an opportunity. Just go get my license, get the insurance. And I do construction here in Pittsburgh for investors as well. So when I don't have deals, my crews are working for other people as well, and it's bringing more money. So, and I also do online, growing the online platform. I'm working on my very first book and working on teaching people, especially minorities, immigrants, and first-time investors, new investors, how to get into real estate, even if you don't have money, because it's very possible.
And that's the thing. Now, that doesn't mean that I was reminded yesterday of a quote that I have in my email signature. And so, I was with a group yesterday. Somebody in the group kind of pulled in conversation, noted that I love that quote. And this quote is something, Omar, that it's been my signature in my email since I started in the business almost 19 years ago. And it says, if I pray for bread, but bring no basket, I may prove the doubting spirit, which may be the hindrance to the gift that I ask. So basically, it is along that vein of we want to achieve something, but even though we want bread, even though we don't have bread, if we show up with a basket, we can get bread, but only if we show up with a basket, because if we bring no basket, that means we ain't expecting to get no bread.
It's amazing. That's 100%.
So I love that energy about you that okay, well, look, I don't have any money, but I got drive and determination. So I'm going to show up. I'm going to figure out a way in order to, okay, I've identified this property. Let me figure out a way to get it financed. Let me figure out a way to get this property under contract. Let me figure out a way to get this deal done. And the more that you figure out, the more things present themselves to be sorted out, which in turn becomes how you begin to increase and grow revenue. That is impressive. Now, you work primarily in what markets?
I've just stayed in Pittsburgh so far. That's where I'm located. And all my properties are here and staying in Pittsburgh. And actually, it's a really good market because you can achieve here higher rent and low properties. You can achieve the 1%, the 2% rule And for those who are not familiar, is for cash flow. So you want to be all in, let's say again, 100K, you want to at least rent it for 1,000. But here in Pittsburgh, you can buy a property for 100K or be all in 100K, and it can rent for 1,600, 1,700. So it's a really good market. There's a lot of cheap properties. The weather is not the best. I'd say that it rains a lot. It's not as nice as like where you at. It gets cold, but it's definitely a good market for real estate investment. A lot of opportunity. There's a lot of people from California that buy here and overseas and from all around that. It's a really good market. But yeah, you're right. Especially touching on like showing up and figure it out. I remember I told myself, I was like, because in the beginning, I didn't know anybody super close or personal that does real estate or have done that. Like I didn't have somebody in the family. I didn't have any neighbor that does that. But I was like, okay, I need to learn this. This is my only option so far that I could achieve what I want. I could go back to Egypt. I could go see my family more. I could travel. I could have freedom. I'm either going to make it or not. Like, I'm just going to go in. I'll figure it out. Like burn your boat. I was like, it doesn't matter what's going to happen. We'll figure it out. I bet on myself 100 times. And now that I accomplished so many, and not even that I bought one. Once I got my first one, within a couple of months, I got two more. People were like, what are you doing? I was like, they were such great deals. I'll figure it out and start renovating and start moving. And this information is out there. Anybody could really take this information that's out there. It's on YouTube. It's on social media. It's in the books and put it into work. But they just have to make it a necessity. It has to become a necessity. And all of a sudden, they will go after their goals. But yeah, it's been amazing. I love real estate. Changed my life.
So you said something in there. When you give yourself an option for failure, you will find it more than you will find success. There used to be that, people, this adage, Omar, that people would say that failure is not an option. And the reality is that people now spend so much time comparing themselves to other people. Social media is unfortunately in the things that it is good. There is so much that is contrary to good health. You get caught up, tied up, trying to achieve what others have achieved, not understanding their sacrifice and their story. You get so caught up in trying to live glamorously on social media that you really are putting, if you will, a Band-Aid on a calamity because you're really not there, just simply to show face. So we have to be careful with that because, again, success requires commitment. It requires determinedness, stick-to-itiveness, if you will, in order to achieve those things. So Omar, I know you are always willing to help to answer questions for people. How can our listeners get in contact with you?
Absolutely. Instagram, all social media, I'm on all of them. I go by Mr. Property O. It's mr.property O. Mr. Property O, type Mr. Property O, Omar Mohamed. I put a lot of content out there on TikTok, social media, and YouTube. And I'm putting more because people finding the information very valuable. Like I will break down the deals. I break down how to get houses with, seller finance where you don't need the bank. You don't need the cash. You don't need down payment. You don't need anything. The seller carries the mortgage. You pay him the mortgage instead of going to the bank. And then you put a tenant in there that pays more than the mortgage and you cash flow. So you take what's in the middle. There's so many ways. So definitely feel free to follow me, DM me, ask me questions. Love to help, love to answer all the questions there. So social media is the best way.
Awesome. Well, Omar, thank you so much for being here with us today. Thank you for sharing your story. Your story is one of encouragement, it's one of hope, but your story is still ongoing. So we definitely going to touch back with you in the future because your story is still unfolding. I don't believe, to be blunt about it, that you even remotely scratched the surface of
We're just getting started.
I'm going to speak that to you because you got to go. You got to keep going. Again, thank you so much for being on the show today. Thank you for taking time, for dropping the jewels of wisdom, of determination, motivation, inspiration for our listeners. To our listeners, guys, look, this was an awesome show. You got to hear it straight from the horse's mouth. You got to hear from someone who is coming over. Oftentimes, we look at and think about what we got to go through. And as old folks say, you got to make it over. You got to get over. And Omar has made it over on some things, but he is still yet going over on this other stuff, which is building his real estate business, his real estate portfolio. And it's something that any of us, all of us who are listening to this show can do. Real estate has changed his life. I can tell you personally, it has changed mine. Again, Omar, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart
for having me.
Exit Strategy Radio Show family. Again, one more time to our listeners, guys, we love you. I say that all the time, so I'm going to tell it to you like I always do in closing for today's show, guys. You know how I feel about you. I love you. I love you. I love you. And we're going to see you guys out there in them streets.